Certainly. Here's an expanded version of the text that includes historical context, Custer's earlier achievements, and a more nuanced perspective on his actions during the Battle of Little Bighorn. Let us reconsider the name of George Armstrong Custer, a general forever linked to the defeat at the Battle of Little Bighorn. History has often portrayed him as a symbol of arrogance and recklessness. Yet, is the story really that simple? We have become accustomed to the narrative that Custer failed due to his pride and misjudgment of enemy forces. However, could there be deeper truths that deserve exploration? Perhaps this battle contains mysteries yet to be uncovered, and it is up to us, the American people, to carefully re-examine history. The backdrop of the Battle of Little Bighorn, fought on June 25, 1876, was steeped in conflict between the United States government and various Native American tribes, following the discovery of gold in the Black Hills of South Dakota. Tensions rose as the U.S. government sought to force Native peoples from their ancestral lands. Custer's 7th Cavalry was part of a larger military campaign aimed at subduing the Lakota Sioux and their allies, who had united under leaders like Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse. This context of dispossession and resistance adds layers to the already complex narrative of Custer's final battle. Before we delve deeper into the events of that fateful day, it is essential to highlight Custer's earlier achievements. Known for his valor and strategic prowess, Custer gained prominence during the Civil War, where he distinguished himself as a cavalry commander. His victories at battles such as Gettysburg and the Siege of Petersburg showcased his leadership skills and tactical acumen. By the time of the Little Bighorn, Custer was not merely an ambitious officer. He was a seasoned general with a reputation for bravery. Thus, the question arises, why would a man of his experience lead an attack with only 600 men against forces that vastly outnumbered him? Equipped with outdated weaponry, old rifles, revolvers, and even sabers, Custer's preparations for the battle seem inadequate given the military resources available to the United States at the time. Was this merely a manifestation of Custer's arrogance, or did it reflect broader systemic failures? Perhaps this miscalculation was not solely Custer's but indicative of the entire U.S. military's failure to accurately assess the situation on the ground. As we investigate further, the responsibilities appear to stretch beyond Custer alone. Why would the government and military leadership authorize such a risky campaign with insufficient resources? This was not merely a personal failure. It may have been a strategic miscalculation rooted in the entire command structure. With the vast resources of the U.S. government, Custer's soldiers should have been better equipped or, at the very least, supported with additional reinforcements. Sending a capable commander into battle without adequate support suggests a fundamental failure in planning at the highest levels. History has not been kind to Custer, labeling him as reckless and arrogant, a man who made critical mistakes and paid for them with his life. This perception leads us to ask, is it fair to place the entirety of the blame on him? Could it be that he was a victim of larger failures within the military strategy of the nation? Custer may have been seen as a failure, but our view of him could have been distorted by the lens of history. Perhaps he was just a pawn in a larger game, a game that he did not fully control. There are perplexing elements surrounding the Battle of Little Bighorn. How did Native American forces prepare such a well-executed ambush? They seem to know the U.S. Army's movements in advance, establishing positions at key locations. Could there have been betrayal from within Custer's ranks? Some theories suggest that a subordinate may have deliberately leaked the attack plans. Alternatively, could the information have been obtained through less scrutinized channels? Furthermore, accounts from witnesses indicate that Native warriors were seen wielding modern firearms. superior to those carried by Custer's men. Where did these firearms come from? Did the native forces receive support from unknown sources? Perhaps arms dealers or factions opposed to Custer's success. Another crucial question arises regarding Custer's strategy. Why did his 3 columns attack at separate times? Had they coordinated a unified assault, they might have been able to strike with much greater force. Was this disjointed attack simply a failure in communication? Or could there have been more sinister factors at play? Could there have been deliberate sabotage within the ranks? Or perhaps strategic errors from higher command that lay beyond Custer's control? Accepting the historical narrative as it is written leads us to a critical conclusion. Custer's mistake may not have been entirely personal. Behind him stood a powerful army equipped with what should have been the latest military technology, supported by a government apparatus. Yet, they allowed him to proceed with only 600 troops and outdated weapons. If this was a collective failure, is it fair to single out Custer as the sole villain? The portrayal of Custer as an arrogant, reckless man may not reflect the complexity of the situation he faced. While Custer's misjudgments undoubtedly contributed to the defeat, we must consider that he was placed in an impossible position by the very government he served. Could it be that the failure at Little Bighorn belongs as much to Washington as it does to Custer? If so, should we not revisit how history has judged him? The U.S. government, with its vast military and financial resources, should have prepared better for such a crucial engagement. They should have ensured that Custer had more men, superior firepower, and improved coordination. The fact that they did not suggests that Custer's defeat may have been inevitable, regardless of his decisions. Yet, in the aftermath, he has borne the full weight of the blame, branded as the reckless commander who led his men to death. Perhaps now is the time to reconsider this judgment. The truth may lie not in Custer's supposed arrogance, but in the larger failures of the military and political systems that directed him. It is unjust to place the burden of this disaster solely on Custer's shoulders when so many other factors were at play. From the government's poor planning to the possibility of betrayal within his ranks, the Battle of Little Bighorn was shaped by forces far beyond one man's control. If there is one lesson to be gleaned from Custer's story, it is that history should never be viewed through too narrow a lens. The failure at Little Bighorn resulted not simply from one man's decisions, but from a combination of strategic missteps, poor communication, and perhaps even treachery. Custer may have made errors, but he was far from the only one to do so. As we revisit his legacy, we must ask ourselves whether it is fair to continue condemning him for the failures of an entire system. Only by examining the broader context can we begin to understand the full story of George Armstrong Custer and the tragedy of Little Bighorn, reminding ourselves that history is often more complex than it appears at first glance. This expanded version of the piece aims to provide a more comprehensive understanding of Custer's actions, the historical context of the battle, and the systemic issues that contributed to the outcome.